Hey guys, we are here in Pennsylvania right now. I'm with my buddy John Kelley, and we're gonna do something a little special for you guys. We're gonna do our top 5 best fall baits. I'm gonna cover the southern region and a little bit of West Coast, and then you're gonna cover.
I got the north covered, so
Okay.
we're gonna compare, the best of both worlds. Being up in the north where I'm from, and a little bit down south where Matty actually has just wrapped up the Bassmaster Open. So
Sweet. Jump
Let's
right
do
into it. Okay. First and foremost, jerk bait. Whether it's a +1 or it's a regular Vision 110, this is something that I always have tied on. And we were like John was noticing earlier. He's like, "Do you always run your jerk bait braid to fluoro?" And that is true. I always run it braid to fluoro. I use 30-pound Sunline braid, and this is the X Plasma 30-pound. And then I do a FC Sniper Sunline leader fluorocarbon 12-pound test, and I use about a 6 to 10 foot leader with that. And then always paired up with a Vision 110 of your preference, just depending on color of the clarity of water. On to you, John.
So now we're gonna move over to the first technique for, your northern fall baits, and that is a single swim bait. I have a 3.5-inch X-Zone swammer, and that is on an owner ball head. And this is basically just something I will use as it starts cooling off to cover water. It's real important to know that this time of the year, the bait fish are moving, the bass are active with them, and those fish want to feed up before it starts getting too cold or really, really cold. So now's a good time to put this in your hand. Cover some water. That doesn't mean burn the bank as fast as you can. You might be throwing this a lot more in open water scenarios. Anywhere you can find bait present, the fish are somewhere around them. So that's a good time to utilize a single swim bait and pluck some of those fish that are trailing those bait balls. And this could be also applied in the south, but this is a really known technique up north, and it gets it done once it starts cooling off, as we are in that stage right now. So back to Matty for number 2.
Number 2, I like the swim bait too. It's a good one. I just use a Hazadon. But number 2 is a Diamante Dog X. This is just any type of Topwater walking bait. You have this time of year, as you were saying, water's starting to cool. At least on the West Coast, they're gonna push in the backs of the coves. They're also gonna be on main lake points, where I was just down in the south on Lake Hartwell and on Murray. They were also in the backs of coves and also on the main lake points, but it was depending on what you're targeting, whether it was spotted bass or largemouth. But a walking style bait is always great to have ready to go. I have mine dangling off the tip of my rod, ready to pick up and just fire when you have an unexpected just flurry of feeding bass feeding up on the top. So I fish it straight braid, and I usually fish it on on a jerkbait rod. It's kind of one of my favorite things to go to. And again, just 30-pound Sunline braid, and on an 8-to-1. This is an 8-to-1 Shimano Metanium. So that's kind of what I like to use when it comes to getting a super far cast in, being able to still get reactive action out of the bait, and get some really good largemouth and smallmouth blow-ups.
All right, back to the second option for up north in the fall. We're actually going to transition back towards a little bit more of the bank fishing now. So the first one was more for your open water scenarios. Now we're going to cover some water casting at the bank, and there's no better way to do it than with this Spro rock crawler. This is the 55. It's going to go anywhere from 9 to 14 feet. Generally, I'm going to fish this in 8 to 10 feet. And I want to, I really want to dig that bottom when I'm throwing this bait. And it's important to kind of keep it slow, because you want to keep it on the bottom and have it, constantly deflecting off any of the rocks, the wood, any cover that you might be fishing as you are going down the bank. Now, color selection, I feel like isn't necessarily the most important, but this time of the year depends on where you are fishing. I'll go with a yellowish orange pattern if the water's a little bit more stained. Now, if we have a clear scenario, a clear high-end reservoir per se, I'm gonna go with more of like a brownish green color. I typically steer away from reds. I usually throw reds in the spring only. I do feel like in the fall you have more success throwing a yellow or orange or a brown color, crankbait anytime you are going down the bank. And the key to this bait is throwing it on a glass rod. This is an Arc Invoker Pro. It is a 7.4 glass rod. Especially this time of the year, you never know, what the fish, how they're going to be conditioned, how they're going to bite. So having that extra delay in the rod is real key for hooking up with some of those fish that might not be as aggressive, because as we are talking about fall, it's getting cooler and cooler. Those fish do start slowly shutting down their feeding windows. So if you hit them on a bad window, it's real important to have the right equipment to, you know, maximize every bite you do get.
Valid, very valid. I think as you're saying, as you know, as the fall comes in, you're gonna have these transitions and swings. And a couple of the lakes that I was just on, there was a funky transition, right? The summer to fall transition, where a lot of times these fish will kind of shut down from feeding, or they'll just kind of be in a funk, whether the thermocline's flipping and the lake's turning over. But these fish, they're still gonna be cover oriented. Remember, bass are line and cover oriented or structure oriented creatures. So wherever there's a line, they're gonna wanna pull to that, whether it's a dock or it's a laydown. And what I like to use and utilize, and what I've been utilizing a lot in the South, was a shaky head. This is just like a 3/16 ounce Gamakatsu shaky head with a, this is a net bait. It's called a T-Mac. And this is, I believe, the Kentucky Special. And this has been such a huge fish getter for me, fishing brush piles and trees even. Typically I would fish a Texas rig, but I actually started fishing a shaky head through trees. It sounds kind of strange, but I was catching them on a Hartwell doing that, and that was super crucial. But when it comes to gear and whatnot, my favorite, hands down favorite, shaky head, more so Texas rig, and light jig rod is the Mega Bass Destroyer. This is the P5 X Bites, and comes with a nice cork handle. All the eyes and all the lay is, everything is just an immaculate piece of work and art when you come to the Mega Bass line of the P5. And extremely sensitive. And I'll throw this on straight 16-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon.
All right, now this is one of my favorite, but it will cause a little controversy because we do fish the Bassmaster Elite Series. We are not allowed to throw this bait.
Bravo.
But if you are gonna go out fun fishing, if you're in the north and it's the fall time, you have to put an A-rig in your hand. You know, if you're going out there looking to catch a lot of fish, big fish, you might even catch doubles, triples, even 4 or 5 fish at a time on this bait. That's what makes it so fun. And that's why it's hard to not actually throw it. Like you have to add this into your arsenal when you are fun fishing up north. So my setup right here, it is the A-rig. As you can see, I do throw the Bass Tricks 2.5 hollow body swim bait. As you can see right here, this is my signature color in JTK Northern Flash. Great color for up north to match a lot of the bait fish that we have on our waters. And this is a bait that you can throw all day long. It might wear you down, but it's important to have the right equipment to be able to throw it all day long. Basically, I don't know about you, but I like throwing a 7.6 heavy. That's kind of where, that's like the happy medium. I found a lot of guys I know will go grab their heaviest flipping stick, 7-Eleven, and I found that it just wears me down throughout a day. It's a lot of weight casting. Anything lighter, it might be a little bit too much for your rod, for your reel. So that's why I've always found the 7.6 heavy to be very, you know, the best option out there for throwing an A-rig. And like I said, this is one of those baits that you can go out there and have an absolute blast on. So it's hard to not, you know, consider this in a top 5 fall baits when it catches so many fish. Even though a lot of people are against it, a lot of people do like this bait a lot. So that's why I threw it in there. And I'm actually looking forward to getting out with this bait in the next couple weeks. So
Talk about fun fishing and giant bass. What better than a glide bait? People think that a glide bait is strictly a springtime bait or maybe even a summertime deal. I mean, I think it's something that you can keep in your arsenal year round. There's always a place for a glide, and especially if you're looking for a kicker and a bigger bite for your day. I mean, there's no better place to turn after you get yourself a good limit, or if there's like a prime feeding window in the morning. This is a 9-inch glide. This is a DRT in Clash 9, you know, I utilize a snap swivel on all my glides. This is a decoy. I believe it's a size 4. I'm not 100% sure. And then depending if you want your bait to float, you throw it on Sunline Mono, or if right now, what I'm doing is, this is a floating bait. I like to fish it around docks or laydowns or even some grass flats as the grass is starting to die off, you can still get some of those bigger females to come up and feed up. Even though it's, you know, the fall, you're still gonna have fish that are in and around similar areas as they do when they spawn, or at least what I found on Lake Murray recently. But this is on a really slow gear ratio. This is a 5.8 Tranks, and this is 22-pound FC Sniper Fluoro, and that's what I like to throw my bigger glides on. And this Ackless, this is an 8-foot Mega Bass Orochi rod, and this thing is a meat stick. So got to be able to have the right gear to wrench them in if you want to get bit, and also not lose the fish of your dream.
All right, so I'm gonna slow it down a little bit now. I know the first 3 baits I brought at you were all moving baits, which are great for the fall time of the year as we're transitioning because those fish are active. They're moving, they're feeding, but this is my go-to. This is honestly my go-to all year long, is throwing a jig. I love dragging a compact football head jig, but now as we start getting into the fall, you go out, you find some rock. Anytime you can find rock in 15 to 20 feet, sometimes even 25 feet. Yeah, that might sound a little deep for certain lakes, but depending on the lake that you have, anywhere from 15 to 25 foot rock, you go drag a Beast Coast football head jig. This is the Sniper jig. It's a compact football head jig. You know, basically it's ideal for smallmouth, but it's gonna catch largemouth. It's gonna catch spotted bass if you go down south, but I'm throwing this mainly with the intention to catch the smallmouth and some of the biggest smallmouth that live in the lake. This is actually my favorite color. It's a brown and purple. This is the peanut butter and jelly. And what I do with this, as it gets cooler and cooler, I fish it slower and slower. Right now I might throw it and actually bring it along the bottom, dragging it a lot quicker than you would think for a bait that is, you know, typically a bottom bait. As it starts cooling off, I'll get to the point where I'm barely even moving this. I might let it sit on the bottom for a couple seconds, maybe 15, 20 seconds without even moving it. And sometimes that's what it takes to get a bite. But as you can see, I just have an X-Zone Ned style bait on the back of it. That's basically because I just wanted to essentially kill the action. I didn't want to have a craw style trailer where, you know, sometimes that's good and all, but I have found that if you put a small swim bait or a stick style bait like that on the back, you can get a lot more bites and fish will actually commit to it when they might not commit to a craw style trailer. Either way, both options do work really well. That's just something I like a little bit better as it starts cooling off, and I feel like it's a lot more important to utilize that. You'll get more bites and you'll put more fish in the boat.
Oh. Well, for me, this is number 5. Last but not very least, a frog. This is the Big Gabbit by Mega Bass. Again, I do trim up the legs just a little bit. I do open up the hooks, just like kind of the standard frog adaptations that you would use. But the main ingredient for this deal is making sure you're using the right rod, because you want to have a good enough parabolic tip, but then the backbone to stick it to them. This is the Tequila back rack. This is the P5 Mega Bass rod. Unreal. You can throw up to an 8-inch mag draft on this rod, and I like to throw my 6-inch mag draft on this rod, and also good old Big Gabbit. If you're throwing it in thick cover, I would recommend utilizing the Valdivia, but for the most part, I will still be able to wrench them out of some stuff utilizing this rod. I'm using Sunline Flippin' and Froggin'. This is, I believe, 60 pound. I like to use 60 pound because there's times where the frog or a big giant bass will get on the other side of a big laydown or something, and you don't want to lose that fish, especially if you can put money in your pocket. But yeah, that's definitely something that you want to have tied on, especially in the south or on the west coast when like your grass is starting to die, or if the bait fish are going up dirt shallow, if they're in like sticks and laydowns and whatnot. Just because it doesn't necessarily need to look like a frog, there's clear, more white bait color profiles that they make that can basically look like a bait fish or a fry or something like that, or a dying shad, and the bass will be able to munch on it. And especially you can put this in places that you can't put treble hook baits or any other bait. So something to keep in mind.
All right, and last but not least, finally, a spinning rod. I know you guys have been waiting for it because all Matty throws, I think, are bait casters. So I got to show you at least what puts the real money in the boat sometimes. So I love a Ned Rig. I really can't express how much how many fish you catch on a Ned Rig, but also the big fish that a Ned Rig does, catch. You wouldn't think sometimes because it's such a small, finesse, simple bait, but it's one of those baits that you could throw it all year long. But right now, as it starts cooling, it is a very important tool to utilize. I throw typically a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce. I make my own Ned heads, and then this is the XO Ned Zone. And what I like to do with this bait, I fish it very, very slow. I've seen a lot of guys when they throw finesse style baits, they think moving it is, superior than anything. And I found out that less is definitely more when it comes to fishing small, slow presentations. You could throw this bait out. A lot of times there's gonna be a fish on there before you even, get situated to even think about moving it. But what I like to do when I pitch it out, I'll pitch it out and I'll let it sit for not a minute, but a couple seconds on the bottom. And then I'll just hop it once or twice, and then I'll let it sit again. And then I'll hop it once or twice again and let it sit. And usually by then you typically have a bite. And that's what I found that is real important anytime you are fishing a Ned Rig. Just do a little bit less, and sometimes it leads to more bites. Don't overcomplicate it. That's real important, but that's with all the fishing. And I want to point out the rod that I do throw this on. It is an arc reinforcer. It's a 7'3" medium light. That might be a little bit long, for some people, but I do think it is important to have that longer rod for long casts, and as well as actually getting a good hook set, especially if you are fishing 10, 15, 20, even 30 feet with a Ned Rig, which you can. It allows you to have a better hookup percentage, and I just always found that longer rod helps a lot for landing those fish. The medium light I think is very important because it gives you a good amount of tip, and it has some backbone in it. It's light as in a sense where it could be a drop shot rod, but since it's a 7'3", makes it a little bit heavier for a Ned Rig application. So that's my setup for the Ned Rig. I don't know if you have anything else you want to include in, but those are basically some great 5 baits for the north and 5 baits for the south anytime you are in this fall transition.
Boom. Good job. Yeah, well, let us know in the comments down below if you enjoy this little snippet. I know it's nice to be able to get kind of different ideas of what to do during this tough time of the year. But either way, if you guys haven't followed John, make sure to follow John. We'll do all the stuff and the stuff. But thanks again for hanging out. I know it's been 18 minutes or so, but something, a little thing that you maybe learned, maybe you didn't, maybe you enjoyed it, maybe you didn't. I don't know. Either way, it's good stuff.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer, even if it's the littlest things.
True that. We're here as a resource. We'll see you guys
Later.